were created to be more than masculine. You look at David, brother, throughout the Psalms, he cried, but no one dared test his masculine attributes. You got the samurai, great warriors, but they love the cherry blossom tree. No one talked about their fondness for flowers. Chivalry is not a way to pander to women. It was a code of the medieval knights. The whole alpha male concept is a myth. There is no battle between two wolves to see who's going to lead the wolf pack. The leaders of the wolf pack are the breeding pair, the male and female. So in other words, from a human standpoint, the alpha wolves are those that are married. And then when you look at
First of all, let's talk about this. Whoever said that wolves are the animals that define alpha? Out of all the species in the world, all of these naysayers always want to point to the wolves. Tell us the truth! All right, what's good, YouTube? It's your man, Book of AlphaRonomy, a.k.a. Dr. BOA. Yep, I got time today. There's a lot of talk about alpha males not existing. And it normally comes from men who have no idea what the hell they're talking about. From the Boyce Watkins of the world to even some women. But it's always coming from men who don't even know the definition of alpha. And being the alpha dundada, I'm going to break this down for you today as we listen to some misinformed, uninformed, and simply misguided individuals try to define what the alpha male is and isn't, while at the same time saying he doesn't even exist. Yeah, I know. That's one thing that an alpha male is not. Illogical, nor is he delusional. But let's listen to this clip, man, and later on, we'll listen to the world's greatest simp, Boyce Watkins, and his outlook on it, and we'll see some similarities here. But what we'll also remember is that both of these guys don't even think the alpha male exists. We'll come back and chop it up on the real tip in a minute.
we were created to be more than masculine. You look at David, brother, throughout the Psalms, he cried, but no one dared test his masculine attributes. You got the samurai, great warriors, but they love the cherry blossom tree. No one talked about their fondness for flowers. Chivalry is not a way to pander to women. It was a code of the medieval knights. The whole alpha male concept is a myth. There is no battle between two wolves to see who's going to lead the wolf pack. The leaders of the wolf pack are the breeding pair, the male and female. So in other words, from a human standpoint, the alpha wolves are those that are married. And then when you look at
First of all, let's talk about this. Whoever said that wolves are the animals that define alpha? Out of all the species in the world, all of these naysayers always want to point to the wolves. Okay, well, look at the lions. That is a place where two males fight. And sometimes the male lion has to fight multiple males in order to see who's going to be the alpha male lion. Let's look at grizzly bears. There are two males that fight to see who's going to be the alpha male grizzly bear. Let's look at the hippopotamus, the animal responsible for deleting more human beings in Africa than any other animal. There is a battle between two males to see who's going to be the alpha male. And this goes on and on. Chimpanzees. There is a battle between two males to see who's going to be the alpha male. Gorilla. You keep naming them. So we go to the one animal that we can say, well, you know, the wolf isn't like this. Oh man, who cares about wolves? Well, I don't care about that. You don't hear nobody talking about wolves in Africa. There's a bunch of animals that people talk about, but you don't hear nobody talking about wolves. So I want y'all to understand this and remember this. It's easy to pick any one thing out of the world to try to prove a point with. But if everything else doesn't agree with that, then you're just talking crazy. But let's finish listening to this, man.
my brothers who often proudly boast being alpha, when you really look at them, when I meet with them, they're trying to hide behind the childhood trauma, the insecurities, the fears. Your whole embodiment is to please women, from the glasses to the cigars, to the big Bugattis, to the Ferraris, to the shoes, to the clothes. But yeah, you're the alpha. But yeah, your whole life is geared around pleasing women.
Now, let me clarify some things. First of all, I don't know this brother from a can of paint, but he don't know what the hell he's talking about. A man with all that stuff, that's not an alpha male. That's a trick. A man who lives his life to please women, that's not an alpha male. That's a trick. That's a mama's boy. You see, the problem is you guys want to point at the worst men in the world and say that they're the alpha males. They're not. Alpha male is a man who put God first. And I mean in a masculine way. I don't mean men who gonna go and turn the other cheek. I don't mean turn the other cheekers. I don't mean men who go into a church and look up at the pulpit of the man raining down the word on them. I ain't talking about that, because that too is lack of masculinity. Also, when we talk about flowers, hey man, liking flowers ain't masculine or feminine. Flowers are in the world. They're made for us. They're made for the animals. They're made for us. When you talk about David, hey man, that's not masculine or feminine. Whoever said that liking flowers is feminine? Whoever said that liking the trees and the plants and the birds is feminine? The world is made for all of us. This creation is for all of us. So if you want to minimize femininity to flowers and simple stuff like that, then you don't understand men or women. But that's the problem. You got so many guys out here that don't understand masculinity or femininity talking. And you also have women out here who don't understand masculinity or femininity talking, because everybody wants to have a talking point. So nothing this man said was anything to do with being alpha at all. The guys he's talking about, those guys aren't alphas. I do agree. Those guys are hiding behind their fears of falling for a woman, or liking a woman too much, or being found out that they have some trauma from when they were children and their mama didn't love them enough. I agree with all of that. But those guys aren't alpha. Those are just dudes. Those guys are fashionistas. You know, those guys are car experts. That's why they have all the cars. They're car experts. Those guys, they're fashionistas. That's why they have all the fashions in their closet. Those guys aren't alpha. An alpha man is a man who lives his life based on the premise of, what did God put me here to do? Everything he does, he considers God. He doesn't make any move without considering God. He doesn't make any move without considering what he should be doing, what he shouldn't be doing, what's right for him to do, what's wrong for him to do. Right now, let me tell you, the number one sign that a man is alpha, you can't even begin to be alpha if you don't honor dietary laws. If you eat pork, no alpha. If you eat seafood, no alpha. You can be whatever else you want to be, but you can't be alpha. If you get drunk, no alpha. I'm not saying if you have a drink, you're not alpha. I'm saying if you get drunk, you're not alpha. These are things that are defined by the word of the Most High. So let's get into this woman who is going to talk, and Boyce Watkins is going to come on and agree with her. Let me tell you the worst kind of man in the world. A man who accepts the definition that a woman has for him or any other man. But let's listen in.
There is no such thing as an alpha male. I am so glad that you asked this question, because it is such a teachable moment. The term alpha male was created by an author named David Meck, who wrote a book in the 1970s called The Wolf, The Ecology and Behavior of an Endangered Species. He studied wolves in captivity and noticed aggressive behavior from the males towards each other and the pack in an effort to dominate, and he called them alpha males. Years later, in 1999, the same author came back and debunked his own theory, and in fact begged the publisher to stop creating and printing his original theory. How did he do that? He studied wolves in the wild. And in their natural state, they did not exude this aggressive behavior and need to dominate. So you see, most self-proclaimed alpha males are the most emotionally immature and aggressive, because they are attempting to mimic behavior that only happens in captivity. This is what we know as...
Now, let's be honest. Here's another woman who don't know what the hell she's talking about. She's talking about wolves. Well, lions in captivity are docile. Lions in the wild are aggressive. So aggressive, in fact, that the male lions, the dominant alpha male lion, banishes his own sons from the pride as they start to teeter on adulthood. He banishes them, and if they don't leave, he will eliminate them violently. So why are we talking about wolves here again? Why are we talking about this one man who did this? Why are we talking about this one Caucasian man that a black woman is so willing to make the god of knowledge and information, when there are so many other species of animals who exhibit aggressive behavior toward one another in the wild, especially during mating season? Grizzly bears, male grizzly bears, they don't hang out together. They bump heads. Male polar bears, they bump heads. This is what most animals do. But we're talking about an animal that is family oriented. We're talking about an animal that the male and female they're just going to be the ones that create. But that has nothing to do with alpha. We're talking about a standalone man. Yes, when that man brings a woman into his life, now they're an alpha couple. They're an alpha pair, and they start to create family. But that male wolf, he became the alpha male by being that one. He had to be that one. So I don't understand what we're talking about here. People are relying on this man talking about one animal. One man did not create the word alpha. He created that terminology as it applies to wolves, not as it applies to animals. Here again, we have another person talking about wolves again, because none of these people have any knowledge about this topic. They just want to talk. And let me tell you something. If you ever listen to a woman define you, especially a woman who ain't got no man, a single woman can't define nothing about a man. She can't even keep a man.
Toxic masculinity.
Now we're going to listen to Boyce talk. And all Boyce is going to do is come in and second what this woman is saying. And Boyce should be the last one talking about this. We've seen the images of your wife and Willie D. In that picture, in y'all wedding picture, we see what that looks like at the reception. She's closer to him than she is to you. They all cuddled up. You standing there looking like a goofball. We've seen that. But I'm not going to even talk about you in that, because we've all seen that. But we also know that you chased this woman and she didn't settle for you until she aged out of the hotness of her body. What I mean by that is twofold. She aged out of the point where she was so hot and horny that she needed to be relieved all the time. You weren't going to be that guy. And she's much older now. So, bro, you are the last one to be speaking on anything about alpha, but I knew where your energy was going to come from. So let's get into this, dive into this, and we'll come back and chop it up on a real tip.
You know, let me tell you what I like about that video. I didn't know that whole theory in terms of what happened with the alpha male and all that. What I like about her analysis is that it helps people understand that manhood, it's a lot more complex than thumping your chest, how many women you slept with, whether you drinking your liquor and smoking a cigar and
I just want y'all to understand, man, how they minimize something that represents something he could never be. Nobody around him would ever consider him alpha. No one around him would ever consider him strong. No one around him would ever consider him powerful. So what does he do? Like a mummy's boy, he go run behind the woman's definition. That woman didn't help nobody understand nothing about manhood, boy. She don't know about manhood. So for you as a man to say that a woman helped people understand about manhood and masculinity, that's why you couldn't get Alicia until she aged out of better options. That's why when you bowed down to propose to her, how she laughed you off and said, "Oh, boys, what are you doing? Okay, boys. Okay, you got me this time." While you sitting there crying and shit. That's because you're defining something, you're thinking about something that no one has ever considered you. You have never represented yourself in a strong way. And it shows in that wedding picture with you and your wife and Willie D.
Growling at everybody. Manhood is about, among many things in my view, effective leadership. And one thing that I learned over time from being in a leadership capacity, whether it's as a professor at a university or a CEO of a company, is that leadership really is service. It's about
a professor at a university is not a leadership, is not a position of leadership. He's a teacher. Now, if you're the chair of a department, that represents leadership because you're leading your peers. You're not a leader if you're teaching young people. That's a teacher. Teaching can be considered a position of leadership in lower levels, kindergarten, first grade. But beyond that, when you get to a certain point, by the time you get to high school, teaching is just teaching. You lead yourselves. That's why when you get to, even in junior high, once you get to the point where you leave one teacher's class and you walk to another teacher's class on your own, leadership in school is gone. You're expected to lead yourself to where you need to go. You're expected to know what class you go to next. You're expected to be there on time. So what are we talking about here? But let's finish. Guys want to make everything in the world about being alpha be negative. Who talking about drink? Alpha males don't drink liquor. Who talk about beating their chest? Alpha males, man, we don't beat our chest. Listen, we too busy doing our thing. We too busy focusing on our lives. But we'll get back into that in a minute.
About listening to other people. It's about forming seeking out, nurturing, developing, and repairing healthy relationships. So, what the sister was saying about the whole alpha male concept being linked to a type of emotional immaturity, I can't agree with that. It's not to say that there aren't some. I would say don't oversimplify it. Really, if a man is a leader and he's an effective leader, he's going to gain the ability to earn the honest, genuine respect of the people that he leads. And you don't get that by bullying people or dominating people with every available term. Walk softly, carry a big stick. That might be one of the ways to kind of look at it. Or if you think about just what it means to be powerful and successful, the most powerful people that I've seen are not lone wolves who dominate and disrespect. The most powerful people I've seen are people who have healthy relationships and connections with others who will have their back when it's time to go to war. So when I tell you,
What's a healthier relationship than a male lying to his pride? When a male lion comes and tries to take over a pride, even if he beats the male that's there, now he got to fight the females. And eventually they subdue. And you know what he has? He has a group, a family group, who will go out and hunt for him. Not go out and hunt with him, go out and hunt for him. Create his seed, or carry his seed, deliver his seed. Be the fertile ground for his seed so he can continue his generations. That sounds like just what they were saying about the wolf, right? But the only problem is the lion got to fight for his to earn it. He don't get to just hold a position. He got to battle for it every time. The same way as men, we got to battle in this world for everything we get. Now you got he talking about, man, alpha ain't got nothing to do with how much money you make. It ain't got nothing to do with how much money you got. It ain't got nothing to do with success. What we talking about powerful? Very few people in this country are financially powerful. You may have a little paper, but they don't make you financially powerful. You know what financially powerful is? Where you can make things move, where you can make politicians bend, where you can make rules and laws work in your favor. That's power. And very few people in this country have that type of power.
You guys, that relationship development is incredibly important. It's something you want to focus on and think about. I really mean that.
Bro, let me tell you something. And this real talk, homies, I'm going to tell y'all, Boyce Watkins is the last one who needs to speak on relationship development. Bro, you chased a woman around for years while she lived her life and did whatever she wanted to do and had her babies and had her fun and lived her street life. And you waited for her, bro, and accepted her at that point. And you were happy about it. Much happier than she was. And you know why she looked like that in that picture with Willie D? Because she knows that the man she's married to is so blessed and pleased to have her that he'll likely accept some shit from her. Now, I can't say what that is, but I know her and Willie D look awfully cozy in that picture while you standing over there to the side looking like you in the wrong relationship with the wrong woman. You're not the one to talk about this, nor is the guy at the beginning. See, let me tell you the problem with these guys. You can tell Boyce ain't never lifted a weight in his life. He lives that life. You understand? And I'm not saying you got to be a bodybuilder or anything like that, but you can look at Boyce and tell he ain't got no intention on being physically strong. So if he and his woman are out somewhere and someone runs up on them, if he don't have a weapon on him, he probably gonna get punked in front of his old lady. Now, any of us, if somebody get to jump on you and they got weapons on you, let's say a crew of guys jump out on you and they draw down on you and they got automatic weapons, ain't nothing you can do, but hopefully we ain't living that life where that's gonna happen to us. So we're talking about a bunch of things here that are negative and trying to apply them to alpha males. No, those are things that guys like you do. You drank your drink. What you're doing right now is emotionally thumping your chest. Well, I don't do all of that, but, I've been a professor and I've been this and I'm CEO of companies and all of this. And, hey, man, all that's fine and good. But when it boils all the way down, what's better? Respect based on what you have solely, or respect based on what you've accomplished, mixed with a little bit of fear of how you carry yourself. That little bit of fear, it helps. So it don't mean you beat your chest. Everybody getting their definition of alpha male offline, bro. They're getting their definition from guys who PAUs and dating coaches and all these guys who place all of that on women. but they don't get nothing out of the women. That's not what alpha is. Alpha is a man who's in this world living the way that God put him here to live. That's alpha. And I'm going to be honest with you. Chasing a woman who don't want you until she finally settle for you because she ain't got no better option, that's not alpha. Trying to minimize the woman down to femininity being about flowers and birds and dances and all of that. Or crying. Did you hear that first guy say that David was feminine because he cried? We all cry. What do you mean? That's why we got tear ducts. But they labeled it feminine because he wants to prove a point. And I'm just going to be honest with you. Anytime these men say, that guy said we weren't put here to be all masculine. So what we put here to be? Masculine sometime and feminine other times? Man, we were put here to love the masculinity that God put in us and wear it like a crown. And woman was put here to love the femininity that God put in her and wear it like a crown. That's how you get your king and queen. You get your masculine alpha king and you get your feminine alpha queen. That's the only way it's supposed to be. But we live in a society where being soft is being promoted as being powerful. We live in a society where being weak is being promoted as being strong. And we live in a society that's telling our children that you don't have to be what you were born as. You can decide at any given time that if you're born a girl, you can be a boy. And if you're born a boy, you can be a girl. Tell me who that helps. Alpha's up, beta's down.